Well, good evening, everybody. I am Dr. Earl Fisher. I am the senior pastor of the Abyssinian Missionary Baptist Church here in Whitehaven. We are affectionately referred to as the blackest church in Memphis and Shelby County. That is because no one is going to show up for black folks, to stand up for black folks, to speak up for black folks more than Abyssinian. If this is your very first time being in this sacred space, I want to welcome you on behalf of our congregational network of friends and kin. I also serve as the founder of Up the Vote 901, which is a nonpartisan voter empowerment and engagement collaborative. And our aim and mission is to help produce more power, information, and representation for more people and increase voter turnout in Memphis and Shelby County in every election. I state those things because they are true, although neither Abyssinian Baptist Church nor Up the Vote 901 is here in an endorsement capacity with any candidate. But Abyssinian has a long-standing history of providing space for some very engaging and important community conversation and dialogue. And so as we were asked to serve as the host facility for this occasion, we had conversations with the campaign and let them know the do's and the don'ts. But we are glad to have them here today, and we are glad to have you here today. For those who may be watching online, as we are streaming on our Abyssinian Facebook page and YouTube channel, thank y'all for logging on. I want all of you who are here to know that our restrooms are directly through those double doors. The first door to the left for the men and the second door to the left for the women. We're looking forward to a interesting and engaging, insightful conversation. And so if you are like me and want to know as much as you can about every one of the candidates, then this is a wonderful opportunity for us to engage. I know there's going to be some people who are going to moderate the panel and ask some questions. And we're looking forward to Dr. Feagins coming in. I just wanted to make sure I said welcome on behalf of Abyssinian to all of you who are here and to all of you who are watching online. And we are looking forward to a good evening. I will be here if you have any questions for me. Don't hesitate to ask. I'll be over there at what my wife calls the innovation station. And so I'll be trying my best to manage the stream. But if you have any inquiries regarding Abyssinian or things in the facility, please don't hesitate to ask. At this time, I'm going to yield the floor to the campaign participants. Would y'all give it up for them as they come and for Dr. Feagins as she comes?
While they get the microphones ready, I will say good evening to everyone who is present, those of you who are online tuning in. Thank you to Pastor Fisher and the Abyssinian Church for hosting us, for an engaging conversation, for being open and just opening doors as a community leader in space often is dependent upon to do. And so open ears, looking forward to a good conversation from our moderators. They'll introduce themselves and we'll get right to it and then save some time for our folks in the audience.
Check, 1, 2. I better know a microphone. There we go. Hello, everyone. I am Tundria Lyons Brock, and I'm excited to be here with all of you tonight. I am one half of the hosts of the Radio Memphis Live Music Hour, and my co-host, I will be remiss if I didn't mention him, Mr. Gerald Morgan Jr., so shout out to Gerald. Our show is on every Thursday from 7 to 10 on Radio Memphis. That's radio-memphis.com. And Radio Memphis is local, and we broadcast to over 160 countries around the world. So we're excited to be representing our city, and I'm excited to be here tonight.
Good evening, good evening. My name is Michael Montgomery. I'm a student at the University of Alabama. I'm so thankful and grateful to be in the room tonight. We're going to go ahead and just jump right in because we all here for the same thing, right? So I am moderator number 2. Want to take the first question?
Sure. Okay. All right, so my first question, and thank you, Dr. Feagins, for doing this for everyone. We appreciate you. All right, my first question. So I've titled this Space to Create, Space to Play. So artists I have reached out to recently have mentioned a crisis of space, affordable rehearsal rooms, safe, affordable parking, easy load-in options for bands, that sort of thing. Beyond a general purpose promise to support the arts, what is your actionable plan to repurpose underutilized city-owned properties for creative use? And would you back concrete initiatives like micro grants for stage equipment or tax incentives for businesses that commit to hosting local and original talent?
Jumping right on in,
Yeah.
art-centered, love it. Am a firm believer in the arts across the board. I think that art is life, and the early exposure to it creates, not just creative beings, but much of what we see, in the world, and we're surrounded by tonight as well. And so, just firmly responding to the question is actually a part of my platform. Is Heart the Arts? And so it is specifically to provide micro grants for that specific purpose. So, there are a lot of vacant spaces across, the county, but certainly in the heart of Memphis and surrounding areas. But providing micro grants for that very purpose, I can just see what some spaces can become with the right investment. And it doesn't take a lot. My great grandmother used to say, it just takes a little bit. All you need is a little bit. And so, micro grants to artists who are interested in their respective, genre or, field, whatever that might look like to create. I think second, in terms of a tangible, actionable plan, in addition to the micro grants, there's just dedicated time. I think I put quarterly in the platform, but that's subject to shift. But to really dedicate times of the year that we are just focused on highlighting talent that's in the county, in the city, right? Celebrating our own, showcasing our own in a fun way. There's no reason that this isn't Vegas, but it doesn't have to be Vegas, but residencies where artists here just perform for a certain week or whatever that looks like the sky is just the floor, for the arts. And then a third way that I've thought about in terms of the arts is I spoke with a few artists in the community. Tim, I've spoken with him, certainly supporting the laureate, position, yes, that the city of Memphis has now, so firm supporter of that. But there's no centralized list of just artists that businesses can look at and choose if they want a guitar or a band or whatever it is in the field to have at different events. And I think that should be available, and that's how we push and make it the norm to centralize the art. So those are just a few ways that I've just thought about on my own, but just certainly excited about collaborating with the artists in the city. That's any artist, right? Our young leaders, but certainly those who are making a living out of this. Everybody across the country, optimizes and makes money off of Memphis's culture, except for Memphis. And so there's an opportunity to do that in a big way, I believe.
All right, so between all of your opponents combined, they have decades upon decades of government experience. Yet despite that time in office, Memphis still struggles with many of the same issues: crime, aging roads, failing infrastructure, etc. In some cases, worse than before. I've even heard it said that Memphis hasn't truly accelerated since the assassination of Dr. King. So what truly sets you apart from the rest of your opponents? And as someone who's viewed as an outsider to Memphis' traditional political systems, how can voters be confident that you won't get caught in the same cycles and produce the same results we've seen across the county for decades?
Wow, y'all are swinging tonight. I like it. That's right. Let's get right to it then. So, what sets me apart? I think that the community has answered that, really. I think in my previous position, I've been really clear and transparent and firm about the type of leader that I am. I've demonstrated that I not only have courage and a backbone, but I'm willing to do what's right and what's best, even if it means that I have to lose something, along the way. Someone told me at one of our last events that my superpower is that I care, and so I will, stand in that, right? Caring meaning that to do the right thing might mean I need to stand by myself. It might mean that I have to wait a little longer until, the masses can see the vision, right? But keep holding it. But it also means that the people know that I want us to go together. And so what actually sets me apart is that I'm the opposite of all the things you just mentioned. What if that I do not have decades of governmental experience in terms of an elected official capacity? What if that is the thing that makes me the leader for now, right? What if my age, I'm so young, is what they say. I'm not the youngest in this race, but I've been too young at every level of my career. What if that is the thing that makes me, the leader for such a time as this? What if, because I'm not a part of, the status quo and the current, what has been described as cliques or, the elite, whatever it is that you call it in your day-to-day move, what if that is the thing that makes me the leader for such a time as this? What if, because I am an outsider, my fresh eyes and my ability to see all that Shelby County, that the city of Memphis and everything that touches it can be, what if that is the thing that makes me the leader for now? And what if that is exactly what we need now? When Dr. Martin Luther King was leading, I think people thought that he was this 50, 60-year-old. Those were young men who set their city on their shoulders and then the world at some point, and traveled across this country with a message that at some point was not well received. Only now do we see roads and streets named after him. There's a day, now we revere and there's the reverence that is given, but then he was not, looked highly upon. And so those were some 20-year-olds that said, hey, we believe that voting rights matter and that everybody should be able to vote. And so if this is our civil rights, action for now, and it continues to be, I just want to offer myself as the leader that says that in the next 4 years, you got to be able to see something a little different. And more importantly, you got to be able to feel something a little bit different. And so I can't imagine being anywhere for 8 to 10 to 25 years and say that to you and then not have a whole lot to show for it. I will remove myself before I am the problem. And so I think that, spreading this table out for the community to come to it, to hash out, opportunities and solutions is the way forward. I do not have all the answers, and I will not, share with you that I do, but I think together we do have enough of them to move us forward.
So artists have told me for years that they live in Memphis not for fame, but for feasibility. I'm sorry, I apologize. Let me reword that. Artists have told me for years that they leave. Yeah, that's the word. Leave Memphis, not for fame, but for feasibility. They can't make a living wage here. Beyond one-off grants, what is your plan to create sustainable income pathways for working musicians, as well as our local comedians and spoken word artists as well, because they're all creatives? Would you explore policies like a local talent fair, which I believe you just mentioned, ordinance for city events and tourism marketing, or partnerships with established institutions to create steady living wages and living wage contracts for local talent?
Yeah, so certainly building on, our first opportunity to talk about this, I think showcases are, we travel to see a lot of artists, right, beyond the city, but there are some events here, right? There's just attention that needs to be brought to it, right? Additional resources. I think we're doing a decent job, but not, the best considering the level of talent that we have, which is what I hear you sharing here through artists. It sounds like they contributed to these questions. So shout out to all the artists. Hopefully you're watching, and then certainly you'd be willing to come to the table to brainstorm, but also move a few things forward as well. But definitely would put resources behind it, advocate, use my voice for it as well. We look at Beale Street, and we go to New Orleans, and we travel to Atlanta and even Nashville now, and it's nothing to see somebody on the street and you can drop something in their bucket, right? Because that's just the norm. And so creating some new norms here where fun does contribute to someone's well-being, right? People are entertaining. When I go to the Peabody and that guy's on that piano, I'm just dropping my little money in there. He's having a good time, but that's something that he does well, but it just brings great joy to me. And so being able to fund more things like that, but also, resources isn't just restricted to money. It's also, providing the platform. And so when I'm thinking about businesses, I know all the time schools are always looking for, bands and just different talent and looking for places to send their bands, right? And so the same thing here. There's nothing for a hotel to have just a list of artists that they have on a consistent basis, where folks from outside of Memphis and Shelby County are coming in and seeing our talent. I have in the platform, I called it See Shelby. It's a passport. I think there's the opportunity for current residents to just see what's happening here as well. Like everybody in Shelby County doesn't even know and not aware, right? And so that passport can get you around the county just to see the beauty that exists here. And then that in itself will serve to bolster and start to put a stamp on Memphis and Shelby County being that place where others come in. Tourism is a big opportunity as well. We're talking about revenue streams for the county, but certainly for the individuals who are contributing to this. People like good entertainment. We like to be entertained. It's that one place and thing. We don't have to talk about politics, and think about work. And so I think there are just so many avenues to make, concrete a few ways that it's pretty sustainable. I think that we're thinking about just musicians, but I'm thinking about television, right? There's no reason that more, production companies shouldn't exist right here. There's a Tyler Perry somewhere in Memphis and Shelby County, right? A Shonda Rhimes. There are folks right here, and there's the space right here to have that type of production. There's no reason that folks who normally go and spend millions to create something in Hollywood itself can't come right here. I did so as an extra. I flew to Cleveland and then I drove to Montgomery to be an extra in the movie Selma. And so they're doing it in different places, and there's no reason that Memphis, Shelby County can't be the same. So, when I say excited, I don't mean that in a performative way. Even if I do not win, I still plan to use my voice in various ways. So.
Okay, so if elected, you will be stepping into a space that has long been male-dominated, in rooms where power has traditionally not looked like you. How will you ensure your leadership is not just present, but undeniable? And furthermore, how will you ensure your opinions and decisions are respected in a room where you may not even be wanted?
Well, as you can see, I don't look at the questions beforehand, so I can work on my, reaction a little bit more. But genuine reaction, right? You worded that in such a way that reflects and resembles my entire, journey. You want to see the elephant in the room? Hello, talk to her. And I have found joy in that, though, and so. For every person, not just every woman, not just every black woman, not just every, non-melan or melanated individual, wherever you are, where you are the minority, then own that as your power. And my folks put that in me a long time ago, so you can blame them for my confidence, for my self-esteem. I believe I belong wherever my feet are. And I think that everybody should believe that. I pour that into my students and any person that I have the opportunity. Like, you don't want to hang around me because I'll have you believing in yourself. And so, I don't see that as it's not a strike. It's an opportunity to inform. I learned it early enough that I can use it as data and not to be, a victim. I've figured out how to command a room, right? And it's, entering silently, respecting the room that I am in, but also being prepared, Don't go anywhere unprepared. You don't have to know all the answers, but know where you are. Know what's on the agenda, know what you need to add to the agenda, and know how to move a conversation forward. There's nothing like the meeting about the meeting about the meeting. And so when I'm sitting in male-dominated rooms, which has been certainly this latter part of my career in administration as an executive, but I majored in business administration, and so most of, even as an undergraduate student, I remember my stats classes and my operations and management classes, men sitting there, and so I hang with the boys and learn what they know and then use it against them, and so have a good time, wherever I am. But what can we do together, right? Let's figure out the thing that we both or that we all want, because the discrepancy or where we get stuck is the how, right? It's just how we think we should get wherever it is. We may all agree that, on Winchester, on the corner, the gas station, we need to have additional visibility of law enforcement. Where is it going to be? Memphis? Are we going to all, rotate? Some people want all the municipalities to work together. So we get stuck in the how because no one wants their people or to be the people to invest the resources. So it is just about seeing where everybody can come together in terms of a happy medium and then figuring out a way forward. But I use, my gender or my age or whatever it is that could perceptually be looked down upon as my superpower, if you will, and making sure that, as long as we can just have a conversation and keep the main thing, I typically don't worry about the ancillary stuff.
So growth isn't just about more gigs and more performances. It's about career trajectories. So how would your administration work with community colleges, universities, and industry professionals to create clear, accessible pathways in the business of music right here in Shelby County? Think accredited programs for music management or sound engineering apprenticeships with local studios or incubator spaces for artist-owned startups, so that a talented 22-year-old sees a 10-year future here and not just a stopgap.
The balance between business and, the curriculum to move a pathway, forward is delicate because it requires, some investment, some funding. It also requires individuals who aren't familiar, with the area to be more informed, but it's not impossible. So where it exists already, we expand that. Where it can be offered online for convenience, that's an opportunity as well. But where the space exists, sometimes the opportunity is to collaborate with local universities and colleges where the space could actually be accredited, right? Yes. And not having to be offered on a campus per se. Yeah. So some of that exists, in pockets, but it's about just how do we scale that. I think the interest will determine that, and so where there are younger leaders who are already saying, I'm interested in sound engineering, I'm interested in, production, or whatever the case might be, just what the interest is, but also looking ahead. So there's workforce trends. We know that there's some fields that will shift dramatically. What does that look like, to present to a business in terms of investors? There are folks who want to be the investors, right? Connect Music, George Monger is going to be a host of a conversation with me coming up here soon this month. Folks like that, they want to make the investments. They're looking for, ways to support their current artists, but also to expand, the industry itself, and then just actually what it consists of. A lot of this is about just education about the opportunities. And so what does recruitment look like, and what does that look like in traveling to schools to really build this as a viable way forward, as a viable path forward? Just as we do, logistics and engineering and to become a doctor. A lot of this is about making the thing the norm, that it doesn't feel so much like I've got to risk my whole life to do this, or I don't know that I could actually build a family, with the income that comes of it. So all the worries that come with it make art, as financially, sustainable as it can be, and as it has been and proven to be just beyond the city limits here. And so I think there are a few ways, but certainly collaborating with universities and Southwest, they're always eager. More tech, spaces that aren't really bring it, just getting to the table, bringing them all together. I do have a GoPro board and as a part of my platform. I think that, our folks should, our youngest leaders, but folks in general, we push sports as going pro, right? But we got to be able to say you can go pro, go professional, and something in addition to that. And so creating these pathways, that GoPro board would be a collective, a collaboration of university officials, business leaders, community leaders, students, educators, where they work on, looking at workforce trends, looking at the curriculum that's offered across Shelby County schools, all schools and districts in Shelby County, and then collaborating to see how we create this pathway, multiple pathways for students to move forward, so that when a student says, I want to be this, but the main question is how, then there's multiple ways to get to it.
Okay, so this question is a part 2 to the last question, but you kind of went above and beyond with your response, so you kind of like nicked at this question, but I'll still ask it, and then if you have anything additional to say, you add on. If you find yourself as the only woman at the table, what concrete strategies will you use to make sure your voice, and by extension, the voices of the citizens you represent, can no longer be dismissed, minimized, or ignored?
I typically listen first and speak last, right? So hear what's happening in the room first, and where I may strengthen the conversation, do that, right? It's not always just coming to talk, and having diarrhea at the mouth, for lack of better words, just to be speaking, right? People listen to you when you have something wanted to speak in a way that when I speak, people listen. And so I mentioned earlier just about being prepared. I speak a lot with numbers because you can't really lie about, what the numbers say about a thing. People lie about numbers, but the numbers themselves aren't dishonest. And so they paint a way forward about whatever it is that we're talking about. Numbers or narratives. And so the data from just lived experiences that people are having in the community, people listen to what you say. If I'm sharing that I sat in, the Klondike community, or I sat, and the Whitehaven community, and this is what I'm hearing, right? But I'm not hearing it elevated in this room. What can we do to have not just a conversation, but make this, be reflected in the decisions that we make, where there's budgetary priorities that need to be demonstrated. How do we reflect that in our budget? The budget demonstrates our priorities and what we value. And then certainly, how do we take it back to the people and have them to evaluate and share where we are and if there's progress being made. And so it's a shared conversation. My being in the room is literally just a representation. That is the exact role, of any leadership position, but certainly this one, strip it of the title. This is a representative of the 900,000 plus, residents of Shelby County and those that we want to attract here. And so it's how do we reflect those voices, and that is my responsibility. So continuing to have, town hall conversations like this, where we're really working together to hear the voices of the community, so that in any room that I show up, whether it is locally, as a region, or is it statewide, where we're having conversations with legislators, or if it's federal, where we're having conversations with national leaders, because the spotlight, whether we want it or not, is on Shelby County. It is on Memphis. And so we do have a clear prime opportunity to actually be a force across this country if we get it right now, to demonstrate what bold transformation can look like, what coming together and collaborating can look like, and certainly what good government and governance can look like as well.
All right, so the question is, and I may have mentioned it a little bit before, about why stay? in Memphis or Shelby County. So Nashville and Atlanta and LA, they're all calling our artists. So what specific quality of life investments would you prioritize to make staying in Memphis the obvious choice for a serious music professional, comedian, or spoken word artist? Would you champion affordable life and work zoning for artists, expand childcare support for touring creatives, and you mentioned possible residency programs, which would be wonderful, that offers tax incentives or housing assistance for artists who commit to mentoring and investing in the local scene for a set period.
Yeah, you gave some great suggestions. So I would say, all of those are great considerations for sure. We often make housing available for educators and law enforcement officers. Certainly there's some opportunity there. There are businesses and investors that absolutely love the arts, right? And would take, pride in jumping at opportunities to provide ways for talent to stay right here. And so that is certainly, an option and opportunity. Sometimes the way of life may not be directly contributing to the field itself, although we've talked about a lot of ways. Sometimes it's about the conditions around it, right? So there may be children that artists have, right? And so it's about advocating for and figuring out ways to make health childcare more affordable. So that's an opportunity. Certainly when I started as superintendent, we worked with, real estate developers and several of the apartment complexes to say, hey, for folks who are willing to move Memphis, that was the, theme there. Would you be willing to give them something off on their deposit or, something off on their monthly rate? And so, there's creative ways to really do this as well. But I've also lived in spaces where it was just this, sector of a downtown space that was just artists, and they lived there, cohort style, like a dorm, but not a dorm, but you get what I'm saying. And that was where they live. It was championed for them. They did murals around the city, so there were just different things that not just in exchange, but they took pride in investing in as the investment was made in them as well. And so certainly continue to say that the opportunities are unlimited. Just getting to the table and sharpening, some thinking around it so that we don't just go in multiple directions simultaneously, but chasing 2 to 3 areas and 2 to 3 pathways, in those first 2 to 3 years, I think gets us, and then we build on that afterwards so that it is sustainable, well beyond you and our time as leaders who would advocate for the same.
Okay, recently, Memphis experienced the worst snowstorm it has seen in over 40 years, shutting the city down for nearly 2 weeks. Small businesses suffered significant losses, families went days without income, children missed valuable instructional time, and some residents were left without power for days. Having lived in northern cities that regularly prepare for severe winter weather, what specific strategies have you seen implemented firsthand that Memphis could adopt to better prepare for future cold weather emergencies? And beyond preparation, how would you protect small businesses, safeguard working families from financial hardship, and ensure that essential services, including the power, roads, and schools, remain resilient when the next storm hits?
Again, you all are really doing well with questions here. Certainly having lived in Cleveland, Ohio, and Detroit, Michigan, I've had my fair share of, snow, not eager to have any more, but certainly we kept moving on those days. So I remember when I was applying for my previous role, and the city was shut down 2 weeks then, and I was just going to work every day, driving in the snow there as well. When I moved here, it was -17, I think, and several inches of snow. And so, started out in the snow and then ended up here. And so it's just the norm, right? I don't think they could imagine there if the city itself had to shut down, for that length of time, but any length of time. And so as I think about the infrastructure, MLGW this time, we didn't lose power, so infrastructure held up much better this time, certainly. but schools could not go. And the thing about that is we're thinking about rural areas. And so whereas, the city may look fine, it's those back roads, and we know this, and so it's having enough snow plows. I can't remember the actual number that I heard, maybe 14. You have to get more snow plows. Those require an investment. I do think I recall Mayor Young sharing that, that consideration was being made right now. And so that is certainly a phone call, upon, being elected, let's have the conversation. It's about being proactive, right? We know at least one time it's going to happen. And so it is not making just this huge investment, because this is not a place where it just snows all the time. But we know it's going to happen once. And so it's figuring out how we can be supportive as a county mayor, right? And supporting across the county where necessary or where practical. In Bartlett, things look fine, and so there are different ways in having those conversations with those mayors and folks there and seeing what they were able to do to clear it out. But it's an investment in the actual tools, and it's being proactive and having a plan. It's also a viable opportunity to put folks to work. Young folks were looking for work, to shovel and clear pathways. And so that's a way to make the investment as well, because we do know that it's not often, but we do know it is guaranteed at least one time. And so the investment in the actual resources is the major, consideration and action step. And then certainly being proactive and just thinking about, where it it happens the worst, because it looks different everywhere, and then ensuring that we have the resources available and the people who can get out and be accessible as well.
So I'm not sure, how are we on time? Cheyenne, are we? Okay. I wasn't sure when you were ready to start, so sounds good.
All right, so we've got 3 different questions that people came in with. Number 1, how can we fix the homeless problem in Shelby County?
Looked at the numbers maybe a few months back. When I looked at the numbers about the number of, affordable housing units or spaces that we would need to construct or make available to play catch up, right, was at least more than 3,000, and we'd have to get after it quickly. And so in my platform, I talk about Happy Homes 1 as a cohort, and then I also speak about the 500 Homes Challenge. I included the 500 Homes Challenge because in that first year, the budget would already be developed, and so it's not a year that is, it falls by the wayside, but it's not a year where there's a lot of flexibility in, doing something unique with the budget. And so I had the conversation with all the municipal mayors, with the exception of one that was absent out of town, about, if there were a few things that we could chase together, could that be one of them? Could we give that some thought? And certainly, they nodded their heads. 500 Homes Challenge means there are certain, several things that would qualify to make additional homes and living spaces available. So that's, new middle housing, getting into that gap, meaning everybody doesn't want a 3 to 4 bedroom home, but they do want to move out of their 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. So there's that. We're thinking about houselessness, but houselessness is connected to the conditions that lead to it, right? It is an outcome. And so that is workforce development, meaning jobs, and connecting to it. That is strengthening the transportation system so people have access to get to the job once they have one, and then making sure that they can afford wherever home is that they want to have it. And so there are ways to work with the commission to build it in, within our county structure, but also working across the county, because houselessness is not just a Memphis-centric issue, but it's across the county as we think about it. We also have to be focused on the number of young leaders, our youth, who are houseless. And so when I was superintendent, just before I was, terminated, I was having the conversation with Habitat for Humanity to collaborate there about tiny homes, using their resources, right? As we think about the land that exists, then I was speaking about, buildings that would exist for the district. As we know, we would have to repurpose some buildings. Conversation for the district, not for me, but obviously there will be some buildings that will need to be repurposed, meaning something will need to be done with them. So how do we think about using those buildings, land that exists as well, for housing? Tiny homes is an example, but certainly constructing homes in general, and that's where that Happy Homes cohort comes in, not just throwing you in a home, but providing you with some of the wraparound support so that for the first 3 to 6 months, whatever that cohort would exist, we provide you with the stipend, or we provide you with the financial literacy that you need so that as you make it through, that's either a rent to own, a lease to own, you have a roof over your head. That's one less thing you have to worry about. You have the opportunity to become stable on a job because presuming you're getting a new one, or you are low employed, meaning your employment, keeps you as a part of the working poor. And so just thinking about all the different, arenas that contribute to someone being homeless, thought about that. And then finally, Memphis Housing Authority, and just having those conversations with the department that exists right now with community planning, and just bolstering that in terms of making the investment in leaders who really think creatively about what housing could be, and certainly, always incentivizing. I'm not against incentives in terms of developers and things of that nature, as long as they benefit the people and the community. And then finally, I'll conclude with none of this is to be done just as a Band-Aid or just a blanket, response across the county. I've looked at it by zip code, and so we're just making sure that we're providing what we need to provide as it's necessary across zip codes, right? And so what's necessary in the Fraser area and the North Haven area looks different. When we think about Collierville and the outskirts, unincorporated Shelby County. So just making sure that we're not doing the same exact things just as this cookie cutter response to say and check off, okay, we're addressing housing, right? Being very thoughtful and intentional about how we address a crisis that has existed far too long, and it's only become exacerbated and more challenging on the other side of 2020 when COVID, hit, and layoffs. And working from home became the thing, and now with artificial intelligence, competing in terms of replacing jobs, we just have a lot of different conditions to think about as it consists or as it contributes to how people end up becoming homeless.
All right, the second question. Do you have any plans for communities like Whitehaven, particularly regarding existing nonprofits such as the Boys and Girls Club?
Was there any additional context provided?
No, but I think we've
okay.
got, let me bring the mic to you.
Perfect.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here and to be in the church as well. And I brought my daughter to specifically speak, well, not speak, but to hear you speak.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. But I knew it was kind of a vague question, but having a young youth in my home, I think it's important that our community have some places for after school that can bring, hopes and dreams to them versus what we have now. Boys and Girls Club come to mind because I've been in, residents of other cities, and I mean, they're across the state, and I think ours just totally disappeared a couple of years ago, but I think it's important that even our community center is not always open, in Whitehaven for breaks. So, I think based on Ms. Brock's question and the questions that the Alabama student had, I like that. And you kind of covered it, but just in general for our 11 to 15 or so.
Perfect. No, I didn't want to assume that's where you were going, but thank you for providing the context. Thank you for being here, and certainly thank you for bringing a young rock star here to be in the room and a part of the conversation. And so I place in my platform just bolstering community centers, right? That's precisely what they were designed for. And so making the investment there in terms of strengthening programs. Obviously, I wouldn't have, that say so over it, but certainly can convene, use the convening power and authority of a county mayor to have and open that room and really talk about how we move forward to strengthen many of the spaces that have either been shut down because of lack of use or don't have the attention necessary or aren't created or are seen as a cool place. Let's just be honest. Our young folks, they don't want to go there if it is not, considered cool, or there's not a program or an activity there that interests them. And so, some of our young girls like to braid. There's no reason that we don't have, that offered there. Art is important. There's no reason, that spoken word is not, bolstered there. There's no reason that engineering and coding isn't at our programs or at our community centers across, the county. Whether it's a YMCA or a Boys and Girls Club or a traditional community center. And so I did place that in my platform because as I've talked to many of the community center leaders, just in any capacity, right, they're sharing that, hey, we can do better with programs, but it's the transportation. So getting some of the students there from school, that's something that we can contribute to in terms of strengthening after-school programs. But idle times and idle minds, how we get the trouble that we see a bit too often from, that 10 to maybe 17, 18-year-old, age range. And so as I've had conversations, it is allowing our young leaders to tell us, what they want to see around the city and the county, but also allowing them to lead it, be paid for it at the age where they can be, but certainly being intentional about those breaks that happen. We see everybody's calendars across the county. We know when students are going to be away. Everyone doesn't want to go out of town, to another city. Many don't have the means to, but they can stay right here and have something productive to do. That also doesn't make them feel like this is the only thing that they can do. And so when I was a teacher, still a teacher, but certainly when I was in a classroom, I just wanted every day to be fun. And I think that's just what this is about. Just how do we bring fun back to the community? We're all just kids. That's really what it is. 40, 50, 60-year-old kids. We still want to have fun. Fun just looks different for us than it did when we were a little younger, but it's still fun. And so that's what this is about, figuring out what is fun, for you, but also what is fun for your 11-year-old, and then certainly what is fun in the middle age range. And it's not too much of a difference, respectfully, but just making sure that we put the investment and the resources there, and we put the communication and the marketing behind it so people know what's available. And then finally, just having the conversations, with some of the mayors so that they can have with their respective administrations about the barriers that exist to go online, to get your membership or whatever it is that you need to register. Several have shared, and I won't say specific cities because it's not about a call out. It's just about understanding where the gaps are. But they've shared that they've tried to go online, register, log in, get the card, whatever it is that they need to go and participate in some of the centers or spaces, and it's not user friendly. And so that's the gap, that's the barrier. Going in person is always an option, but where we can streamline the way to get to, something that is productive and constructive, that's also the opportunity as well.
We have a question from one of our viewers who are streaming. Leon asked, Dr. Feagins, the roads in unincorporated Shelby County are horrible due to litter all over the roads and overgrown vegetation, illegal dumping, and a couple of those roads, and goes on to list several of them, are full of debris and litter, and some dumping of mattresses have been seen. When you can call Shelby County Road and Bridges, you cannot reach anyone, which needs to be changed to report your complaints.
He wants to know what I'm going to do about it. Fix it today, right? Or yesterday, really. You're out of time. The roads, are something. And just figuring out who fixes what, right, is the first thing. Because I want to be clear, the Shelby County mayor doesn't have the oversight of everything. So that would be my first thing, making sure y'all wouldn't hold me responsible for everything. But knowing that where the voice could be used, right, and the collaboration could be used as well for funding, to bring it and heighten it as the challenge that it is, the problem that it is certainly first or second. First, I would say to his question or his complaint about, hey, just making the call to report it is a problem. I think that certainly is the wheelhouse that could be looked at immediately. In my 100-day plan, I talk about speaking with all of department leads, the departments in general, and that's a part of those conversations, right? Like people in the departments will tell you the gaps themselves. Like they're not running from them. They may not have the support needed or the resources, a combination, just figuring out, what's that first step to handle this, because we can do this. People see, trash being picked up or mattresses for sure, they notice that we're doing some work. And that's all that anybody wants to see, is that, hey, my taxpayer dollars are being used wisely, and that we just care about the general view and look of where we live. Like that contributes to our mental health. It contributes to our perception about a place. We love home. We just want home to look like, it's beautiful space. We want it to feel like home as well. And we don't want other people coming in and talking about our home. And so certainly beautification, as simple as it sounds and as low on the priority list as it sounds, it's actually one of those things that if we address it, people know that we really care about excellence in all things all the time, regardless of what that is. And that's just how I think and view. And so that's any building. It's nothing to pressure wash a building. I mean, it does, it does amazing work just to pressure wash. And so it's also thinking about a recycling program. I know we think about it in schools only, but, there's no reason that as citizens, as residents, that we don't give more attention to recycling. That's those bins, placing them out just like we place, for trash to be picked up, and then just playing our part, as it concerns having a healthy environment. And then, of course, that starts to contribute to air pollution and all the things. So environmental justice, consists of many of the things that Mr. Leon, I think, asked about. And so just having those conversations, doing what we can that could demonstrate immediate, attention being given, streamlining and making sure that we are taking care of the gaps and the challenges that exist in just a phone, or making it even accessible online, or having an app for that. Once upon a time, Verizon, got us all with that. And so, there's an opportunity there as well.
We have 2 more questions. Okay. And then I'd love to hear any questions from the audience, I'm sure. All right, the next question is, due to the events that transpired with MSCS, have you thought about how you would assemble a team that works with and for you and your agenda? A dedicated team, as I'm sure you're aware, is vital in achieving your agenda and 100-day plan.
I'm always a little cautious about how I respond to this. I think you all know I'm okay with being honest and transparent. I believe, and I could go to my grave and be wrong with this, but my heart still fundamentally believes that the individuals that I hired had pure intentions to do right. I will rest with that. I don't hold bitterness. I harbor nothing negative. I fundamentally believe that when they were hired, they wanted to do well. That aside, I do believe that not everyone understands their true capacity and the workload that they can handle. I also understand that I work very differently. This does not feel like work to me. I could do this all day long and not feel tired. That's not how everybody else works. And so I have learned that. I don't make apologies for how I work, but I have learned that. To that end, I would not hire C people, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. That means that I am an A person, not type A personality. I am an A person. we go for the gold all the time. And so you got to hire either people or B people who can understand A people, right? Meaning that we don't cut corners. We respond to people within 24 hours or at the initial receipt of it, saying I've received it and a response will be provided to you. We're researching. There's just a way to do good business. I believe in customer service. I believe in transparency. That means if we don't know, we don't know. We tell you we don't know, but we're working on it. I believe in shared spaces, and so a part of that was I wanted everybody at the table. I had huddles like this all the time, and so for some that was a bit much. For me, that is the necessity. Why else am I here? I did not sign up for that for $325,000. I'm not signing up for this. I don't even know what the salary is for mayor, but I'm not up for this role for that. And so surrounding myself with the right people is important. Some of them are here. Many of them will come from outside of here. I'm okay with saying that. There are folks who live in metropolitan cities right now that this is nothing. They know what big governance is about. They know what it takes to push multiple initiatives forward simultaneously. We got to do several things at the same time, and then not everything at once, though. It's folks who understand a big vision, but they can get into the details. And so I have really thought about that beautiful experience, that what hiring would look like, and a lot of that is having some of you at the table as well. Folks don't like that, but I love that. See what I don't see. After all, these are folks that on this org chart you need to be able to pinpoint and reach out to yourself to share a challenge and an opportunity, as well as your county commissioners. And so I'm excited about what that looks like in building a team that is competent, that understands and defines excellence the same way, that understands innovation while balancing delicately that we don't have to go in and strip everything that Mayor Harris and everybody did before now. There are things that work. They just need some additional, attention, some care. But being very clear about the criteria as well in job postings, and then spreading it, far and wide as well. So I'm excited about that. I appreciate that question. And I appreciate the attention that has been given to the experience, because that means you all saw something as well as it concerned the experience as former superintendent.
Anybody here have a question? We have some raised hands.
Hello, Dr. Feagin.
Hey there.
I love you.
I love you back. What's your name?
My name is Jacqueline.
Hi,
I
Jacqueline.
wanted to ask you, how do you respond to, because I'm not from Memphis, and I hear all the time, she's not even from here. How do you respond to that? What's that? And then for you to be so honest and clear and say, I'm going to tell you all now, I'm going to bring some people in from somewhere else, and from here too. I just want to be clear and honest up front. How do you respond to that?
To the outsider?
Yes,
The
like
outsider
you're an
comment?
outsider. Like, how could you come in here and run for mayor? You're not even from here. I hear that.
But you all want me to. You know what I mean? Like you said, hey, let's do this. And a part of leadership is listening to the people. So, for all she doesn't listen, no, you have to be clear about what you're saying to me. I am just not a gullible individual. I am a reader. I am a curious individual by fault. I ask a lot of questions, and questions make people uncomfortable. But there's more than one way to see and think about a thing. And I just want to make sure we're seeing and thinking about the things in more ways than one. And it's not about my way, but you can believe that I believe that when I came to the table, I brought you my best solution. And then let's start from there, or let's slice it, right? But make it better. But just knowing that I am an outsider, and so I think it's like not the best use of my use of my energy to like fight or battle that. As someone who is a realist And certainly I tell you about data all the time. Well, the data would say I'm not from here. You know, I wasn't born in Tennessee. I'm from Alabama, proud Southern girl, grits, you know, girls raised in the South. I'm from Smith Station. I put us on the map, right? No one's ever heard of it in here, but now you have. And so I'm proud of that. And I want, you know, folks to be proud of embracing someone who is not from here, but more importantly, because of course I've heard it and will continue to hear it, and I won't battle it. I just really want to know, well, what are you saying when you say that? Because that is stating the obvious. But I read the criteria. It said that I had to be a Shelby County resident. I own a home here. I pay taxes here. I've lived here almost 2 years. But two things. I've lived here long enough to see the systems. I've seen them firsthand. I've experienced them. You have as well. So we have that in common.
Very good. Very good.
I also decided that I saw and experienced the systems like you, and I would not tuck my tail and run because that's what everybody does. When we think about what it takes to move anything forward, your home, your department, wherever you are on your job, and certainly a large, $1.8 billion government. It requires folks who are okay with sitting in the discomfort. This won't always feel good. Jacqueline, you won't always open up and say your statement with, I love you. At some point, you're going to be upset with me and disappointed with the decision that I make. I have to be able to sit with that. And so that is one. I also had my team to look up, just for fun, how many people are residents in Shelby County that are not from here? More than 60% of people were not born here. They chose here. That is something when somebody chooses you, chooses your place, and they want to call it home. Stop trying to push me away. I'm not going anywhere. And I say that with respect. And we do that, we other people a lot. Not just you weren't born here. We do that to our immigrant families. We do that to people who, didn't major in something, but they are a career changer. You don't have 20 years as an accountant. Okay, great. But I know numbers better than you. Like, people can do things, right? Let's stop boxing people in. Like, there's so much that we can all offer if we really say that, I'm sure Pastor said, hey, this room is open, and we're just excited about having an open dialogue. If he truly means that, then that's what every space should look like on any given night here for whatever it is. Doesn't mean that he agrees with it. He is not endorsing me. This church is not endorsing me. But we understand that collectively and together, we can really make this place a rock star county. Memphis can be on the map for something other than crime and dysfunction and disorganized folks and people going at each other's throats and communicating all the negative things. We could do that all day. Tell me something positive. And that's all that I've said, is that I see a lot of light and a lot of positive that exists now and that can be with the right leader at the helm. So I take pride in being an outsider.
So good evening, Dr. Feagins. All right, I want to first give my bias because I worked hard to not frame my question as an attack, right? So I actually didn't support your removal from the board, but I am concerned about somebody moving here in 2024 and being a county mayor. So you spoke about how you value numbers. I'm an organizer. So two things we looked at: money, where you've raised like 30,000 or so in comparison to people who raised $250,000, and even the crowd tonight. If it looked like you had a mandate that was backed by money or people, I would take this seriously because I would say the majority of the people support you. But based on the money, based on the number of folks, it does not appear to be that way. And then you said something that struck me. This is actually what made me say I would get up. You then started talking about hiring other people from outside. And I can take, getting the best talent wherever it is, but you asked, what does that say? I think that it could say that we don't think that we have the talent here. So I'm just curious about, how when you say people want you here, how are you measuring it? With the money raised, with the numbers, how do you claim a mandate to run from here?
Perfect. What's your name?
Siju, S-I-J-U.
Siju, thank you for your question. I don't hear any bias there, and I certainly didn't receive any attacks, so I appreciate you prefacing it that way. So let's talk about money. I'm glad you brought that up. In a place that is incredibly impoverished, where more than half of the population struggles with poverty, asking folks for their money to throw into signs that don't vote and an office space and frivolous things for me, and I'm speaking for me, is not priority for me. It doesn't take $500,800,000. Folks will tell you across this county, and I've met with them, they ran a race where they raised $1 million and lost, by a landslide, and it wasn't the money. And so I have not looked at money in terms of I need to go beat the people across their pockets to get across the finish line as mayor. So that's one. Two, what we use it on has been most important for me. And I've been very clear about what we're going to use it on. So I have a team who is volunteering their time because this is who they believe in and what they believe in. Thank you. Thank you to the team. So that's one, or two, or three, whichever number we're on. And so when I think about money, I've thought about it as an educator that had to do a lot with little. I started out as a teacher, and we had a $150 budget for my classroom. I couldn't do anything with that, even in 2006 when I started. But that's what I had. But my students didn't know that. My folks bought, the community contributed, nonprofits. That's how I strengthened my relationships with nonprofit organizations, community leaders, and folks outside of the school building. I did the same thing for every little bit more of a budget that I've been entrusted with along my pathway. And so for me, it is about what you do with what you have. My great-grandmother lived in public housing, called them the projects, in Phoenix City, Alabama. All that I knew of for her in terms of where she lived was public housing. That's all she ever had. Under her mattress, or beneath her 2 mattresses, she would keep a wad of money. Next to her bed, she kept a bat. She said if anybody ever broke in, she would beat them with the bat, and then she would have her money right where she needed it to go, because she said, all you need is a little bit. And that's how I've thought about this and every area that I've been in. All you need is a little bit. The more you have, the more opportunities you have to be poor with it, one, but it's the more opportunities you have to be innovative and provide for the people. And so I have not been focused on raising $300,000, $500,000. I know exactly how much we need to pay the people to work the polls, to get a few signs in a few areas, because you all have contributed to my earned media, so I haven't had to pay for that a whole lot. And so I've been really clear about looking at these polls that folks won't release because they say I'm at the top of them. And so I understand now for sure what politics really looks like. And so when you ask how I'm measuring it, I'm just looking at all the polls that the people have paid for. Folks who are running against me, business investors who really throw their weight behind folks silently. They're calling me to show me these polls, but I'm head down as an underdog who is losing this thing. But as long as the people keep showing up, and as long as the people go to the polls, that's how we get this win. And so I have counted. We have the numbers. We can look at households and see And the numbers look all right, CJU. So I appreciate you bringing a very transparent question about money, about voters to the table or to the conversation. And then third, finally, I think you asked about hiring. What I said and what I guess I can strengthen it is I will always be open to just what good talent means. Everybody in my administration as superintendent was from Memphis. I was very clear about that. Because when I started, they thought I was going to bring everybody in from outside of Memphis. I said then, I believe that Memphis has the talent. They haven't been given the opportunity. And that's what leadership shared on the inside. Now, I have some reserved thoughts that I'll keep to myself about maybe why that has been. However, I still believe that the talent exists here. But I would be open to, if someone were wanting to come outside, and see you just making sure folks like you are at the table. And if you disagree and you just feel like, hey, they don't have that Memphis way or that Shelby County thought in terms of thinking about the whole, then maybe we don't go forward with them. But it's just not we have a closed door. Does that make sense? There's a little, so I can't really see you. Okay.
All right, well, thank you, Dr. Feagins, and I got a million questions I could ask. I'm not going to ask them all. I do hope you and I can chat a little bit after this is over, but one of the things that I heard when I watched the debate that was at Mississippi Boulevard was the first question that Michael Adrian Davis asked you about your lawsuit. And I want to be clear that I did not support your removal. And many other school board members can tell you, I talked to them directly and thought that it was just a bad move. That being said, I also don't believe that that impropriety is an automatic kind of inroads into such a high executive position. Having said all of that, when he asked you about the lawsuit and if you felt like it was a conflict of interest, I think I heard your response, but I don't know if I got a clear kind of understanding from your vantage point if you felt that it was. So I want to rephrase it, and then you could elaborate if you want to. If you are elected, will you drop the lawsuit the day after you are elected?
Why would I drop the lawsuit?
Okay. Right. No, fair response. Can I
No,
respond?
not just me. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because I would think, now this is my interpretation,
Absolutely.
you might see it differently.
Absolutely.
I do think it's a conflict of interest.
Can you expound?
Yes.
Just so the people.
Sure, yeah, no problem. So my understanding of it is that you are owed, if the lawsuit is in your favor, you are owed a substantial amount of money. And you also have to make some decisions about how that money is going to be obtained, and being someone who represents the county, I think you might be compromised in figuring out whether or not that is in the best interest of the county itself. Personally, for you, absolutely. And I heard you mention earlier about the amount of money that the position makes. I don't think the position earns as much money annually as the money that you would be owed if you win the lawsuit. So that's why I think it would be a conflict of interest, and I understand if you may see it differently.
I want to make sure I am respectful of your question. So let me just, I'll share it, again, and maybe do a better job this time. Shelby County government serves as the funding body for Memphis Shelby County schools, meaning that money passes through Shelby County and is given to the schools. Additional money from Shelby County is for CIP, so capital facilities planning. That's from the county itself. But even that has a maintenance of effort, meaning I could not go in, if elected, and say all of a sudden, we're going to give less money in this regard. It's already established. And the county commission is the body that makes that decision anyway. So as long as those 13 or 8 of those, 7 of those 13 agree, then that's what the amount would be. Additionally, the other districts, 7 districts, receive a percentage of funds as well. Many people don't know that. So it's not just Memphis Shelby County schools. Germantown gets a share. The new district, Innovation School District with the University of Memphis schools, they receive a share. And so they all receive a portion of the funds, with obviously MSCS receiving the most because they have the largest, the highest enrollment. And so there's a separation there. The school district is the school district. So the school board makes the decisions for the school district, not Shelby County government, which is why all the calls for Mayor Harris to do something was, a bit, it's understandable, but there was nothing he could do other than work behind the scenes if he could, which respectfully he was, and that's about it, right? Second is the county commission. There's not much they can do, which is why you see the lawsuit or the decision in terms of placing them on the ballot that was sent back, right? That's not happening. And so when I say that there's a separation or in terms of a conflict, these are different bodies of government. While they have, some working together, and all bodies should be working together, the conflict of interest, I think, as you're raising it perhaps, does not exist to me. As we think about due process, which is what I mentioned in the forum that you're referring to, that's owed to anybody in this room on their job to follow a process, whatever that is and however it is, indicated for your respective employer. Now, whether you get it or not is not, the determining factor, but whether you can go for it and say that, hey, you did not provide it and afford it to me is your decision. And so that's me as an employee who had a contract in a state that I understand is at will. And so understanding what your rights are is important for anybody. It's also about bad actors, since we asked this question. There are bad actors everywhere. You have the authority to make decisions. You don't have the authority to abuse power in a space where people in this room elected you. And so at the crux, at the center and the heart, put the money aside. You're saying, hey, are you going to drop it? Maybe the better question is, will you say you don't owe me? Because we can have that conversation. Because for me, it's about policies, strengthening training. No one else should have to experience what I experienced. I just know God trusted me with it. And so when we have bad actors, and I don't mean bad people, I don't think lowly of anybody on that school board. I believe that, as I have said, that you could fire me. You have that right. There's just a way to do it. And it is written. And you have to do it publicly, which is why that old sunshine law exists well before I was born. It is in place. And so you have to do it publicly. You got to talk about firing me in front of the people. That is what the law requires, not what I require. And so you don't get to make up things either. Right? So there's so many layers to this, and trust me, every time you all ask me about it, I take no issue with responding to it. And so I appreciate you asking me about it, but that is why I don't see it as a conflict of interest. We're talking about when I filed the lawsuit, elected officials everywhere were, we have some things we haven't been doing. Backs started to sit up a little straighter. Phones were looked at just a little bit differently. And it is important. Do what you need to do. We're not going to ever catch everybody, and that's not the goal. But firing me and the world watching me get fired and the people not knowing and the people put you in those seats, you owe them an explanation. So, because you have chosen the way that you chose to do it, then you have to pay me. Now, I have thought about all the ways that I would pour back into this community because that's just who I am. But that's a subject for another day, right? Like, you're not asking me to become the community bank. You're just saying, I don't know, would you think about it? So I didn't do the work for the money is what I was sharing earlier, but I did negotiate a reasonable salary. And $325,000 is what I negotiated. And I want every woman to go to the table and negotiate the same when you have the opportunity. But for that, I appreciate you asking the question. I do not see it as a conflict of interest. I am an advocate for children, for schools, for educators to be paid more, for poor buildings to be, built better, torn down and done something different with. This is probably the best place for me to be, but I'm not sharing with you that because I was removed there, that I'm qualified for this, which is why I shared with everyone who has supported me. I still want to earn your vote for this. I don't want your sympathy, your pity. You might be mad at everybody, and that's fine. If that's why you're voting, vote. However, I do want you to make sure that you know you have an executive who would be in this office. I majored in business administration because I wanted to go and lead a large corporation. I was a career changer. I went and took the alternative certification route to become an educator. I just do well at education because I want to be great at everything that I do. I served in media. I was great there as well. I want to be excellent. And so understanding what's at stake here, the opportunity for me, in terms of how I viewed it, is you want me in this role at least right now. Because the core across the country is that we have poor education systems which contribute to the destruction, the fall, the dysfunction of every other system that it touches. Healthcare, transportation, workforce. If you think about social and economic mobility, if you think about just general access to housing, all of it, if we fix education, we can fix everything else. And so I appreciate your support as superintendent. Certainly I am not expecting anyone to just, follow me blindly, but certainly don't crucify me because I served in that role first. If anything, that was a $1.4 billion, organization. This is a $1.8 billion organization. We served more than 100,000 children and their families, so it is the same, communities. You just can't fire me. I would at least get 4 years, and so we'd have a little time to do some work, because what we did in 295 days, whether you want to say those are my results or not, it's measurable. It's exactly what I entered and said we would be able to do if we cleared the way and allowed people to do the work that they went to school to do and or that they were hired to do. And so that's the same thing that I will offer here.
Good evening, Dr. Feagins. I'm Gavin Johnson, a student leader for seventh grader from Bellevue Middle School.
Yes, hello.
Hello, representing our STEM department, and something we're working on in there is how to help and improve our system of poverty and food insecurity. My question for you tonight is, many neighborhoods and communities in Memphis who are considered high and major food deserts. What is your plan to attract, bring, and sustain grocery stores or fresh food markets in underserved areas while keeping affordability?
First, can we give Gavin a round of applause? Every time, and students, every time they show up, it is the reason why I say it is dangerous to say that children don't know any better and they're not watching. They pay attention to everything. So thank you for your presence, and certainly thank you for a thoughtful question. So there are business folks who want to, right now, today, open full-service grocery stores. They want to expand, the ones that exist right now, right, and scale that. And so excited about your question, given a lot of thought to it. Had some conversation with the Agri Center, John, over there, about farm to table. Thought about how we build gardens on top of school buildings, right? We've done that in many of the spaces that I've lived in. And so there's many opportunities to address food deserts, including full-service grocery stores. So that could be locally, right, for folks here who want to get started. That small business grants that could be provided, dedicated specifically for not just full-service grocery stores, but also for specific zip codes, right? And so being very dedicated about that, ensuring that they hire locally, right? Ensure that they hire and provide a meaningful wage as well. So that's one thought. In addition to that, there are, chains across the country that are looking to start in spaces just like Memphis, right? And I say Memphis specifically because that's where most of those food deserts exist, as we think about the zip codes and the respective neighborhoods that are thought about. There are students who have started in my previous spaces where we attached it to local schools. And so it's not always just, new buildings and the construction and the high cost that comes along with new construction. It's being really creative about it as well. And so there are spaces where we can attach service or grocery stores, fresh food markets as well. And it's also an opportunity to work right out of schools. So we've done that in many spaces as well. When we think about culinary arts, we really just start at the root of just where your food comes from that you're cooking and preparing, right? So just being really thoughtful about that. But just to be clear, there are business investors already and making that very clear in terms of prioritizing, where we need them and ensuring that the investments go there first, not only, but they're first. And then certainly thinking about farm-to-table opportunities. I'm pointing like this is a school, but rooftops where gardens could be, created. Those are also sources, and that is a place to go and get your fresh produce. And then thinking about chains that already exist as well. Someone shared that in one Kroger, their produce looked really crisp, and then when they walked somewhere else, it was really wilted. And so it's just thinking about the stores that already exist as well. In food deserts, but don't really meet the need because the products there just are unsatisfactory. It's also giving, attention to farmers, and I know that's not celebrated and thought about and championed as a prideful pathway forward, but it is. Like farmers contribute, to everything that we eat, just to be plain about it. And so just really thinking about how we do more about bringing, those who do the work and then the spaces where their products can be found, bringing them to the table collectively. And then last but certainly not least, young students like you who take pride in creating and innovating in terms of an incubator space to provide solutions for it. And so I don't have all of the answers, but I know that you do. And so creating that space for you to work with, community leaders and really solve some of our issues and champion the way forward, because it's also about going to the state and requesting some space there. There are grants, millions of dollars in grants that are left on the table that can contribute to this as well. There's public-private partnerships that are also available. And then certainly there's always federal dollars that are hidden. And so it's strengthening our grant department as well and adding to it so that the folks can go and chase some of the resources that would be necessary.
If we don't have any other questions, I think we've got time for just one more.
I don't necessarily have a question. It's more so of a comment. My name is Nicole. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, born and raised. I'm someone who is from here and has sought many times to move out of Memphis. I actually had the opportunity to work online remotely, where I've made the most out of anywhere that I've worked here. I commend you for stepping in and bringing a freshness that I think that Memphis needs, because honestly, it motivates me to not want to pack up and leave. I don't have children, but I supported your journey when you were a superintendent. I was impressed with your interview, because I do believe that education is the foundation and it connects to every area of public health. You have to forgive me because I'm very emotional and talk about things like this.
You're good.
And what upsets me most is that a lot of people in Memphis, I don't know what it is, they ask for different perspectives. They want movement. They talk about things, want things to be different, but they're still the same people that are showing up at those tables. So we're at a point where we need a fresh set of eyes. That's why the word benchmark exists. I have an MBA in business administration. And so I challenge everyone who is from Memphis to give Dr. Feagins a chance. And thank you for not making the conversations all about monetary. That spoke volumes to me, because most of the time when we do have those heart-to-heart, hard conversations, monetary is always a conversation. Memphis needs more money, yes. But there are a whole lot of other things that Memphis needs. And I thank you for bringing your heart to the table when you're speaking to people in every community in Shelby County and seeing what is needed.
Thank you. Thank you. I know you didn't ask a question, but I think it's an opportunity for me to share, especially based on what CJ asked earlier. or stated earlier. Two things, and you'll hear me say this in each, space, two things people, all of us, don't like the most: how things are and change. That's it's age old, right? It's not new with us, and it will continue to exist in certain parts. What I can offer to you, though, is I'm not here to hurt anybody. I'm not here to take anything, and that's what change feels like. It feels like I have to lose if you gain, and that's not what I'm here for. I'm just saying that there's enough sky for all of us to fly. There's enough for us to all win. And just because no one has shown it to you before doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. There is a clear path for everybody in here to reach the level of success, achievement, however you define it. It's not how I define it. There are more than enough pathways. There's more than enough resources. I promise you there are. We don't have to, it is not done at your expense. When folks hear you asking about artists, I know there's a population of folks that are like, but wait, if she starts focusing on the artists, then, the business community, when I go to the chamber, they're gonna, well, what's happening there? And then, go there, then the other community is going to, that's just how it feels when we're talking about opportunities. And so the greatest opportunity is to make sure you have transition team-wise. We think about, somebody asked earlier, how are you going to surround yourself with people? It starts with a transition team. And I'll leave my commentary about my transition team alone. Somebody told me that they were going to be my pallbearers. In the beginning, I didn't understand what that meant. On the end, I saw it. And so, a strong transition team matters. And so that would be folks like Siju, who may not agree with me, but he has to be at the table to bring that voice so that everybody is reflected. You have an MBA, you have to be at the table, but Gavin has to be at the table too. Michael has to be at the table too. Everybody has to have a space or feel like someone there is reflecting and or representing them. And that is my responsibility. And if I fail there, then I fail us all. And so I can hear your concern, and I also understand why people feel like that, just as somebody who studies human development and how we just kind of process things. And then it's just a little bit at a time, not coming in and having to rip the Band-Aid off of everything. Some things we do have to do a little faster. We go as fast as we can, as slow as we must. Because we don't have a lot of time. And so there's a sense of urgency that has to be at play here. Shame on us, y'all, and I'll keep saying it, if we think we have tomorrow to get this right. We don't. Whoever brought up nothing maybe feels like nothing has changed since Dr. Martin Luther King. Not sure if you know how long ago that was, but that was decades ago, right? And so we don't have a lot of time. And so it's a combination of balancing how people feel about somebody that's an outsider, one, and two, someone who will ensure that we are reflecting what Shelby County looks like, its multiple interests as a region, but also in neighborhoods, right? And so that's why these conversations are so important to me. I can do all the forums and debates in the world. Not one forum or debate will get you to vote for me as mayor. Not one. But conversations like this, sitting on porches in barbershops, on the grass with a homeless person in parks, that's what will get it, because you will get to just see, as you said, my heart, but also I just don't have a lot of time to fluff you either. I don't know what I don't know. I don't have any false promises, and I don't have any politically baked speeches, and so I appreciate you lifting that, but I also honor and balance that it will take a culture, a mindset shift in order for folks for us to move where we want to, and we can stop comparing ourselves to Nashville, and we could be Atlanta. We can be. But those folks got together at some point and said, progress is necessary, innovation is required, and we have to start right here. So hold the vision, hold tight on that part of the roller coaster ride, right? The part at the top, they tell you put your hands up, and then you hold on tight when you're going down, because never do you jump off the roller coaster. And that's what this is. It'll get a little bumpy, but just don't jump off. I think I used the airplane the last time. Roller coaster feels a little more relevant here, but I appreciate the conversation this evening. I'll conclude by saying, you know, someone asked at one of the conversations, why are you running? Why do you want this job? And I told them I don't want the job, I want the impact. I believe that the outcomes that can come, you know, from this opportunity in this moment are enormous. Certainly economically, but as a space of innovation, certainly we have to strengthen education, but there are all the moving parts that come along with it. Municipal mayors are excited. I can say that, I will say that. Our conversation went well. I am not seeking to be Memphis 2.0 mayor. That is currently Paul Young. And so I am the connector that this county needs in this moment to bring us together, to move us forward with a regional agenda that reflects the nuanced needs of the respective cities that we serve. And so I look forward to serving as your next Shelby County mayor, and I appreciate your time.
Well, one more time for Dr. Marie Feagins. And thank all of you for coming to Abyssinian Baptist Church tonight. We've been honored to host this conversation and look forward to hosting more conversations with our community in the future. I hope Dr. Feagins can stay around for a few more minutes, and then I'm sure some of y'all probably want to come up and share some words with her and hug her and get some pictures and all of that. We can stay around for a little while longer. When the lights start flashing, that's when you know it's your cue to get ready to go. So thank y'all for coming, and y'all have a good night.